in the General Assembly. It's not about Republican and Democrat. To not address poverty is, as one scholar says, to commit attention violence. It's one of the worst forms of violence when you treat people as though they are invisible. Some say Dr. King started late in his life on economics. That's not true. In 1956, in a sermon entitled Paul's Letter to American Christians, Dr. King talked about capitalism gone crazy when the 1% rules over the 99%. Tell all my folks in Occupy, they didn't start that phrase. Dr. King lifted that from a pulpit in Montgomery in 1956, right up Highway 80. In Martin Luther King's last speech, 16 days before he was murdered by assassination, he closed it out by telling the story of Lazarus and diabetes. Lazarus was a poor man. The name Lazarus means one whom God is with. Diabetes was a rich man, and diabetes wouldn't even give him crumbs. Diabetes died, Lazarus died. That's the great equalizer. Lazarus ended up in heaven, diabetes in hell. Diabetes begged for help. Couldn't help him because there was a gulf. And Dr. King used that 16 days before he was killed to say, diabetes didn't go to hell because he was rich. He went to hell because he couldn't think of anything else to do with his riches but to abuse the poor. Diabetes didn't go to hell because he was rich. He went to hell because he wanted to be a conscientious objector in the war on poverty. And then Dr. King said this to America 16 days before he died. He said, and I stand here tonight to say, America too will go to hell. That's Dr. King now. Unless she uses her resources to lift humanity out of poverty. He says, it seems like I can hear that one day America will say, didn't we build great buildings? Didn't we dwarf time and space in the airwaves? Didn't we build bridges to cross the waters? And he said, yes, the historians will say you did that, but then God will say, but when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was in prison, did you come see about me? The reality is, history is our call to action. The statistics are our call to action. The South has the highest percentage of citizens living in poverty. 10 of the country's 12 poorest states are Southern. Though about 15% of Americans live in poverty, in Mississippi, the figure is 23%. Alabama, over 20%. Louisiana, over 20%. Arkansas, 20%. Georgia, 20%. South Carolina, 20%. Texas, 20%. And even North Carolina is ranging near 20%. The former Confederate states set the gold standard in American economic deprivation. And that, my friends, is sin. We have more churches and more talk about religion in the South and less true faith that addresses the issue of poverty than anywhere else in the world. Of the 10 states with child poverty rates in excess of 25%, 9 are from the South. Of the 11 states with over 10% of children living in extreme poverty, 10 are from the South. There are 6 million children living in extreme poverty in the United States, and 42% of those children are in the South. We also lead the nation in the South of those without health care. Texas paves the way with 24% without health care. Louisiana, 20%. Florida, 20%. Georgia, 20%. South Carolina, 20%. Mississippi, 18 to 19, 20%. Same with Alabama. North Carolina, nearly 20%. And to add insult to injury, the Pew Foundation released a national study of economic mobility and said that the South continues to be the place that has the lowest economic mobility. In other words, you're born poor and you stay poor. And also we find from studies that the states that have most of the poverty, particularly in the South, have the most politicians that fight policy that would help the poor. There are 365 high poverty counties in America, and the majority of them are in so-called red states, led by Republican legislatures. Yes, there is a call to action. In these states, in our state where I come from, 25% of our kids live in poverty, and almost 40% of the people of color where I come from. And what we see happening is the continuation of the strategy of the so-called Southern white strategy that was used after the Civil Rights Movement to end the Second Reconstruction, that pits poor blacks and poor whites against us, while the rich oligarchs